It's time for news from the Central Valley. I'm Frankie Tovar.
I'm Angelina Martin.
Welcome to this week's episode of the 209 Headlines Podcast. The date is February 23rd, 2018, and we have 7 headlines for you, and we'll start off right off the bat with Angelina Martin.
Yep, we're going to go over to Stockton, where a Stockton police officer was arrested and charged with annoying or molesting a child under 18. So the Stockton Police Department has arrested one of their own officers based on 3 charges involving inappropriate contact with a minor. Officer Matthew Huff, age 28, was booked into San Joaquin County Jail Saturday morning. His bail was set at $253,000. That didn't seem to be a problem for him because he was released from custody later in the day. Huff was charged with contacting a minor with the intent of sex, sending harmful matter to seduce a minor, and annoying or molesting a child under 18. Specifics behind the charges were unknown as of Saturday, though Stockton police did confirm the minor is a female. He has been with the Stockton Police Department since December 17th, 2012, and his brother and father also work with the department. They're the first family to have 3 members sworn into that department. The department says that Huff has been placed on administrative leave pending further investigation. In a written statement, Stockton Police Public Information Officer Joe Silva said, "These actions are a major departure from the values and professionalism of the Stockton Police Department. Accountability is critical to maintaining public trust." Amen to that, Officer Silva. February 11th, the police department released a statement regarding women who have come forward alleging Huff acted inappropriately toward them. Chief Eric Jones at the time called Huff's behavior absolutely abhorrent. Neighbors in the Galt community where the 5-year Stockton police veteran lived were shaken by the news. They said he was a great man who they never thought would be involved with a minor. Residents added that he's lived in the neighborhood for about 3 years and has a wife and a baby. So his life isn't going too good right now, and those are some terrible charges that are against him.
So it sounds like he was once a pillar of that police department,
right,
along with his 2 other family members. As you said, the first time there were 3 relatives in the police department, I believe you said.
Yeah.
Now he's an embarrassment to his family. I know that girl is 17 years old. I read in the article, and it doesn't really give any details as far as how they knew each other,
right,
whether or not they were acquaintances, friends, or just strangers. And of course, he pled not guilty. So we'll see how the trial moves forward. And I know the preliminary hearings will be going underway shortly. Now we move on to our second headline. This one out of the Manteca Bulletin, written by Glenn Call. Thieves target ATM machines from liquor stores. Windows and doors were smashed at 2 liquor stores in Manteca in the early morning hours of Monday, February 19th, in a bid to steal ATM machines. The stores, one located on Lewis Avenue and the other on East Yosemite, were hit less than an hour apart. The 2 thieves are described as white males dressed in stocking caps and hoodies, and they used a white delivery van to commit their crimes. Their first attempt at the Louise Avenue location was unsuccessful, but their second attempt at Manteca Liquors on East Yosemite ended in success with the ATM machine being loaded into the back of the van. Manteca Liquors owner Sam Singh spoke to authorities after the theft and said he was disheartened by the incident after security footage showed several cars driving by during the burglary, and they did nothing to alert police. You can read more about the details of the theft, along with how much money was believed to have been stolen, in the Manteca Bulletin and online at mantecabulletin.com. ATM thefts, that's not a common occurrence.
No, it's very hard to even get into one of those. So if you're stealing one, I guess you know how.
It's risky as well because you never know how much money is actually in the machine. It could be a lot. It could be not much at all. They could have just emptied it out, It's definitely a gamble, Frankie.
Just like our next story, a driver took a gamble running away from the cops in Ceres. This story is from the Ceres Courier and written by Jeff Benziger. A 39-year-old man led Ceres police on a high-speed chase Tuesday afternoon, which was February 20th. And why was he running? Well, because his car contained methamphetamine, a loaded handgun within his reach, and a Mac 11 9mm unconventional pistol with a loaded magazine. So yeah, he had a reason to run, I guess. Damian Gabriel Cortez was the suspect, and Ceres Police Sergeant Darren Venn initiated the chase when he saw Cortez's silver Mustang driving 20 to 25 miles per hour over the speed limit. Cortez refused to pull over for the sergeant, and the pursuit ended when he flew through a red light at the intersection of Hatch Road and Central Avenue, colliding with an eastbound vehicle. Cortez was taken into custody, and the driver of the other vehicle was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Cortez was found to be on active parole, and get this, while he was being medically cleared at a local hospital before booking, he broke free. So he tried to get away from the cops again. He was recaptured, though, and booked into the Public Safety Center for evading a police officer, possession of a controlled substance, and numerous weapons violations. And of course, you can read that story in the Series Courier or at theseriescourier.com.
And you can see his mugshot on our new thumbnail, which is on YouTube. We'll talk more about that later. But yeah, he looked like he had a rough time of it before his arrest.
Yeah, definitely.
Now we move to another collision, but this one a fatal one. Our fourth headline of the day, written by Sabre Stafford, coming from the Turlock Journal. A Turlock driver suspected of causing a fatal DUI crash. A collision between a car and a big rig resulted in the death of a Modesto man and the arrest of a Turlock man suspected of driving under the influence. 30-year-old Jacob Hoggett of Turlock was arrested by the CHP on suspicion of vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, driving under the influence causing bodily injury or death, and for a probation violation. The collision happened a little before 11:30 p.m. on Monday, February 19th, on Highway 99 between Keys and Ceres. The name of the deceased has not yet been released, but it is known that he was 37 years old. The series of events that led up to the collision are still murky, but what is known is that Hoggett and the deceased were driving well in excess of 55 miles per hour in a 2001 Honda when they approached and hit a 2005 International Big Rig from behind. Hoggett sustained minor injuries. He is currently being held in lieu of $250,000 bail. You can find more details on the incident in the Turlock Journal and online at turlockjournal.com. So yeah, just to clarify, the man who died was riding in the car with the suspected DUI driver.
Right. That was one of my questions.
So always be careful with who you get in the car with, because you never know what can happen. Obviously, he's not driving, but he still loses his life. And DUI driving and crashes seems to be a trend. We'll be talking more about another headline later that involves a DUI crash. But first, let's break things up with a sports blast. That's right, Loud Eddie is up next. And I know there's a lot going on because, hey, we're in the midst of wrestling season for Masters and State. So let's see what Eddie Ruiz has to say.
What's happening, everybody? Glad to be here. Glad to be back. Glad to see you again, Frankie. As always, so we're talking 209 Sports, and we're starting off with the Manteca Bulletin. So this is kind of a big news right here. Why? Well, because one of the teams from the Manteca Bulletin's coverage area is going to the finals for girls basketball. So check this out. The Knights of Ripon Christian advanced to the D6 girls basketball final. Obviously, you guys could check out that the entire story online at mantecabulletin.com. But check this out. The Knights made all 10 of their free throws in the fourth quarter in Morgan Van Elderen during a key three-pointer down the stretch as they held on for a 55-52 victory that sends them to the championship round and the CIF State Northern California Regional Championships. Big congrats to the Knights. Great season. Also to note, this is really cool, by the way. They are seeking their 12th Sackwalking Section banner and the first since claiming 3 in succession from 2000 to 2002. That's what this article says. Check it out. There's a lot more to read. So mantecabulletin.com. So now we move on to the Oakdale Leader, where Dennis Cruz wrote this. Posted February 21st. That's when it was published, obviously. But the Mustangs shut out Calaveras. The Mustang boys soccer team shut out Calaveras. How about that? So the 2017-2018 CIF Sackwalking Section Division IV boys soccer playoffs began on Tuesday, February 20th. And on that brisk winter's night, that's what Dennis says. Great start of the story, by the way. Yeah. The 6th-seeded Oakdale Mustangs stayed hot by scoring 5 unanswered goals in their 5-0 home win over number 11 Calaveras. Senior Izzy Valero led the team with 2 goals and an assist in the win. Great start for them so far. So obviously, you guys can check out this article, oakdaleleader.com, and you can check out all the brackets on the CIF website, obviously. But their next playoff game is scheduled to be against Natomas High School. We move on to the Series Courier, one of our favorite sports reporters. I mean, it's Dale Butler, man. That guy's a legend. So check this out. Central Valley's Palaio plays second and Kiros fourth at Masters for girls wrestling. Again, we were talking about girls wrestling a couple weeks ago. But check this out. So Nayeli Palaio stands alone now as Central Valley's greatest wrestler. Woo! The senior girls grappler made history this past weekend by becoming the school's first 3-time state meet qualifier in any sport. So you can check out the rest of that article at seriescourier.com. Some pretty interesting stuff there, right there. That's for sure. And then from there, we move on to the Turlock Journal. So we're talking really quickly about 2 girls soccer teams. And why? Well, because they won their first round. They were the only teams from the Turlock Journal coverage area from all playoff teams that advanced in the playoffs. So they actually won their first round. That was it. These 2 teams. From the town of Turlock, the Pittman Pride girls soccer team advanced to the second round after a thrilling overtime win. And then you take a look at the Hillmar girls soccer team, which advanced to the semifinal last year. They're back at it again after beating Marysville. But you guys can check out these articles, obviously, at turlockjournal.com to get the latest information on all that stuff. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that stuff. All of us try to keep up to date as much as possible. And next week, this is really exciting, okay? So the plan is, as of right now, because there are 23 wrestlers from the Turlock Journal's coverage area alone to go to state next week. So obviously we're going to have a bunch of people from the 209 that are going to be well represented. That's the thought at this moment, considering everyone does good, or assuming everyone does good today at Masters. So good luck to them all. But yeah, we'll be talking some wrestling next week. That's the plan. So I'll be over there from Bakersfield. So that's the plan. So for right now, back to Angelina and Frankie. See you guys next week.
Hey, thanks, Loud Eddie. It's always great to hear about those high school students who are really thriving in their respective sports. And jumping back into the news headlines here, we're going to talk about some other high school students who are really raising awareness for an issue that's in the national spotlight right now. Hundreds of Stockton Unified students staged a walkout Wednesday in response to a nationwide call to protest gun violence at schools. About 300 Franklin High School students and 50 from Health Careers Academy were reported to have participated. None of those students left the campus, but they congregated peacefully and marched in front of their schools. The rally was in response to a mass shooting last week at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, where a 19-year-old man opened fire using an AR-15 rifle, killing 17 and injuring 14 more. Stockton Unified officials said students on Wednesday walked out of class at noon and returned shortly after 1 p.m., so they were out of class for about an hour. And those who missed a class will be marked with an unexcused absence for that period. Students were aware that would happen, according to the principal. And he said, quote, "As educators, we are responsible for educating students and helping them understand about the issues that are happening in our society. Students have the right to voice their opinions about the issues that may affect their lives in an appropriate manner," end quote. So it sounds like the principal was supportive. You know, all they got was an unexcused absence, which that's what it was. They weren't in class. So good to see a good, safe protest. No one hurt, everyone being peaceful, and them really getting their point across.
Yeah, I'm glad the school officials didn't overreact. A lot of headlines regarding school shooting and reforms and people trying to get answers after this latest tragedy. I did read that some schools in Tennessee, I believe, were threatening students with suspension if they protested or walked out. So it's nice to see that the Stockton officials, as far as the school district goes, they're more open-minded, they're more welcoming to protest.
Right, freedom of speech.
A civic disobedience can be very important. So if you have a cause, don't be afraid to let your voice be heard. Now we move on to our 6th news headline of the day. This one from the Sirius Courier, written by Jeff Benziger. Cell phone sale ends in shooting. A 17-year-old boy is grazed in the back by 2 shots fired at him on the evening of Saturday, February 17th, while stopped at the red light atop the Whitmore overpass. The shooter is believed to be a man who attempted to steal a cell phone from the victim earlier in the evening. Police said the teen, along with his brother and niece, went to the Chevron gas station at 1821 Mitchell Road for a prearranged meeting to sell a cell phone. When the potential buyer and suspect arrived, he looked at the phone before he bolted off on foot. The teen and his brother chased him down, got the phone back, and then left the scene. It was a short time later, though, when a vehicle pulled up alongside the victim on the Whitmore overpass and shot several 9mm bullets into the vehicle. The suspect is described as being a black male. Anyone with information is asked to call Detective Sergeant Danny Vieira at 538-5672, and it seems that he was just grazed, the victim, no serious injuries, which is always good. You can read more about this crime in the Sirius Courier and online at SiriusCourier.com.
Is a cell phone really worth trying to kill someone over? That's insane to me.
Well, I guess it depends on what cell phone it is, so how new it is and how much you can get for it.
True.
But either way, the answer would be no.
They are expensive nowadays.
But what's the most expensive cell phone you could probably resell for? $700?
Yeah, not worth it.
But for some people it is.
For some people, yeah.
Or some people just don't care.
Yeah.
So here's a PSA for you guys. If you're going to buy or sell anything online, always meet at a police station. That's what I've read, and that's what I try and practice when I sell things online.
Absolutely. And here's another PSA, don't drive drunk, like our next headline, where a Modesto man has been charged for a DUI crash that killed 2. 28-year-old Alfonso Rodriguez Quintana has been arrested on 2 counts of homicide after crashing his truck and killing his 2 passengers on Sylvan Avenue early Thursday. Quintana is believed to be the driver of a 2002 Dodge truck that crashed into a tree, catching the vehicle on fire and trapping 2 passengers inside. Though firefighters and police officers worked on extinguishing the fire, the 2 passengers remained trapped inside the vehicle and died. Quintana was treated for minor injuries at a local hospital and released to officers. While his passengers were trapped inside the car, he was found near the crash lying on the ground. He was arrested and booked into Stanislaus County Jail on 2 counts of homicide, driving under the influence causing injuries, gross bodily injury in the commission of a felony charge, and an outstanding warrant. He's incarcerated with no bail. One thing that I've noticed is that we've talked about 2 DUI crashes in today's podcast, and in both cases, the passengers ended up dying and the driver survived. So that's always something that I've noticed even before today. So I looked up some statistics, and according to the Los Angeles Biomedical Research Institute, intoxicated patients survive traumatic injury more often than those who are sober. They said that alcohol acts as a buffer that inhibits certain stress-related chemicals that are released when a person suffers major injury. And they also said that drunk patients, in fact, have a 65% greater chance of survival than their sober counterparts.
Yeah, a lot of people always ask, why do the drivers always survive or they come away with minor injuries? It reminds me of a story I saw on TV one time. It was a long time ago, but it was about a man. He was in tornado country. He got sucked out of his house and he got hurled miles away, but he survived with minor injuries. And the doctors told him the reason he survived is because he got knocked out before he got thrown into the air. So when he landed, his body was limp. He was unconscious. He wasn't stiff or aware. So was able to absorb the impact. It was really weird to me, but it's kind of the same principle. When you're drunk, you're all loose, and you're not really feeling the pain and you're not reacting instantly or as fast as you should be. And so I think that would probably be a correlation between those 2 things.
Yeah,
Although I'm terrified of tornadoes, but I'm even more terrified about DUI drivers.
I can't stop thinking about the fact that guy flew through a tornado and gets to live and tell everyone about it. Because, if he's totally okay, that's like the coolest thing ever.
Oh, it happened. They
That's
interviewed
insane.
him. Yeah. So if you want to check that out, go do a Google search. I'm sure you'll find it quickly. And you can tell people that you heard about the story right here on the 209 Headlines podcast. And that's it for this week's episode. Thank you for listening. We have a few announcements before we sign off, though. The first of which is to let you know that this podcast can now be found in the iTunes store and on YouTube, in addition to SoundCloud.
Woo! That is such exciting news. We've been waiting a while for that to happen. So now you have even more opportunities to listen. And you can find the links in the description below. So go follow us and subscribe to us on those new platforms.
And as always, we urge you to subscribe to our publications: the Turlock Journal, Oakdale Leader, Manteca Bulletin, Sears Courier, Riverbank News, and Escalon Times.
And don't forget about 209 Magazine and Studio 209.
Studio 209, yes, that also has a new home. That will be hosted on its own dedicated YouTube channel from now on, starting next week. And next week's episode will feature our very own Angelina Martin. We're going to Gospel Fest tonight. That's being hosted by UOP, and that's expected to be a very great event. We're excited to go cover that and see what it holds.
If you don't know what UOP is, that's University of the Pacific.
Thank you, Angelina. Thank you
problem.
for spelling that out for everybody. So you can check that episode out next Thursday on Studio209.tv and on YouTube at its own dedicated YouTube channel. So take a look for that. That's also where the 209 Headlines YouTube podcast will be housed, at the Studio 209 YouTube channel. So until next week, I'm Frankie Tovar.
I'm Angelina Martin.
Have a good day.